Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. I'm with Oculus Rift Reviews, now with Windows Mixed Reality as well. Today we're going to review The Wizard's Dark Times. The Wizard's Dark Times is a follow-up by Carbon Studio of their hit The Wizards. This time there is some additions that weren't in the original game, including climbing, including more spells, and I think it does look better than the original game. This game is more focused on a story narrative, so you really do feel like you're in a journey. In the original game, it kind of felt almost like a wave shooter with the level system that they had. It's still sort of like a wave shooter, but at this time it definitely feels more like you're on a journey. So it does feel more like a story in a single player campaign than the challenge system they had in the prior game. The Wizard's Dark Times is available on the Steam store for the HTC Vive, Valve Index, Oculus Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality. It normally retails for $24.99. It's currently still 10% off. However, if you own the original game on Steam, you can get the Wizards bundle, and you do save a lot of money by doing that. I was able to buy this game for basically a little under $17, which I think is a good deal for the price and the amount of content this game has. Now, it did take me 3.5 hours to complete this game. However, I did run into a major bug, and that major bug probably added at least 10 minutes, if not probably closer to 20 minutes to my game time. So really this game took me just a little over 3 hours to complete. I did enjoy the game overall. It has its positives and it definitely has its negatives. So let me talk about the positives first before I get into the negatives. First of all, it does look nice. It doesn't look great, obviously, compared to Half-Life Alyx or Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, those, or a lot of other VR games. It doesn't look as good as the top VR games, but it does look nice. You have lots of different looking areas, and there's a lot of verticality to this game. Like I mentioned, there is climbing, there's elevators, there's these zip lines that are a lot of fun to use in this game. And you do have a host of different spells at your disposal, some more effective than others. There are some light puzzle elements as well. There are some chests that you can try to unlock, and here I happen to unlock it. I won't show how you do it. It should be pretty simple though. None of the puzzles here are complicated. They're all pretty easy, so it shouldn't be that difficult. But a lot of it just involves using spells that you've learned along the way. You do get an arsenal of spells as you move on in this game. I think you just start off with your fireball, and from there you just keep getting newer spells to play around with until you get more powerful spells. Enemies as well. You start off with just a few enemies, and then there are a bit more. And that is actually one of the criticisms I have, but I'll get into that later. Like I said, I just want to talk about the positives right now. Like I said, I did enjoy the game, and it's nicely done. There's a nice little story here. There is narrated portions, and the voice actors did an admirable job given what they were working with. However, you can tell this is not a AAA game from a AAA developer. It is missing some features. It's just lacking some polish. And so let me get into some of the negatives, which I'm going to mention a lot of negatives. First of all, although it does look nice, like I mentioned, it doesn't really compare to the top games like Half-Life Alyx. It just doesn't look that good. And it just lacks some overall polish, like the climbing, for example. This is a feature they have in this game. However, just the climbing here is very subpar compared to other games with climbing, and you can see your hand just not exactly where it should be, and you can still climb up. So you'll see your hand completely nowhere near the object that you're climbing, as you see here on the video. And there is clipping throughout. You'll clip through objects while you're climbing down or you're climbing up. You do have to use teleport, so you do have full locomotion and smooth turning. There's lots of options, which is great. So I'm on a 1060 GTX, and it looks pretty nice on my rig, although I wasn't getting that many frames per second. I was usually at 45 frames per second within the game. And I don't really have a complaint about that because I did try to have the best graphics possible versus performance while I was playing the game. However, while I was getting a steady 45 frames per second, which I'm okay with, once I got near the end with some of the boss fights, especially when you're facing those 3 different mini bosses all at the same time, this game took a severe frame rate drop. So there are definitely severe frame rate drops in this game, and I don't like that. That was definitely not very pleasant and made the mini boss fight there near the end very difficult just because of the low frame rates that I had. So like I mentioned, there's just a lack of polish, and I told you all I had this major bug that I ran into. I had to quit the game and restart to get around the bug, but basically what happened is the Arcane Blast spell, I believe that's what it's called, didn't spawn. So I completed the section, but I couldn't get through, and I was looking everywhere. I couldn't figure out how to get past the section. Finally, I decided to, quit, look at an online video, and sure enough, it was just happened to be a bug. So I definitely didn't like that. And towards the second half of the game, you kind of run out of new enemies, so you're just facing a lot of the old enemies. Now, you do have some new spells to play around with, but it is disappointing that we really didn't see any new enemies towards the end. And one of the big boss fights at the end is really just 3 mini bosses that you faced earlier just together. So that was rather disappointing. The major boss fight at the end was just okay for me. It wasn't really anything special. But overall, like I said, I did enjoy the game. But, there's just an overall lack of polish. The story wasn't really all that great. Basically, it's just narrated by this guy who's telling you what to do, and you're just basically destroying everything in your path or figuring out these light puzzle elements. So there's not a lot of depth to this story. And like I mentioned, towards the second half of the game, you're just facing the same enemies over and over again, and your spells just don't feel powerful at all. It usually takes multiple hits to kill the enemies, and yeah, that can be kind of a downer. So overall, if I have to rate this game, I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. And I really did debate whether to give it a 6 or whether to give it a 7. And at the end of the day, I just decided, you know what? It's a 6.5. So yeah, I do recommend this game, but I would definitely at least get it on that Wizards bundle sale where you can get it for a little under $17. I think given the short campaign of just a little over 3 hours, and although you can replay the game and play the adventure mode or whatever, I just have no motivation to do so. Maybe in the future there'll be patches that improve the game, but for right now, to me, the $24.99 price, it's not really worth that much. This is definitely a buy on sale, but I'm gonna go to 6.5 out of 10. It's not bad, but there's just so many better games in VR right now. So yeah, it's a good game. I would call this just on the border of what might be a good game, right on the edge of what I would call a good game, but it's definitely not great. And for $24.99, it is a little expensive given the amount of content. By the way, I did forget to mention that I did have to teleport because there are pathing issues, so you can't always use full locomotion. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. I'm with Oculus Rift Reviews. If you like my review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I do need your support. And as always, please have a wonderful day. Goodbye.